Hi, my name is Cori Murray. I am a content creator, the former deputy editor of Essence, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here today to moderate this conversation with these two amazing Black creatives. Please, thank you for joining us for the AAFCA and BAFTA Present a Black History Month conversation series, The Struggle to Be Seen, the Black Identity in Media. This is the next installment in a wonderful series that has kicked off with Black History Month here in the United States and will culminate with I'm probably too soon to say this, but look out for something to happen maybe in October when Black History Month takes place over in the UK. This series today is going to be a deep dive of how Black creatives maintain a sense of artistic integrity in Hollywood and how they can best support each other in doing so. Now, I know many of you know these two wonderful creatives, but I am still going to read their receipts, as we like to say here, and let you know just some of the wonderful things they have done. First, we will start, like Queen Latifah said, ladies first. Salli Richardson-Whitfield is a 30-year industry veteran. She has been featured in over 20 major motion pictures and has starred opposite a number of Hollywood top actors, including Samuel Jackson in The Great White Hype, Denzel Washington and Antoine Fisher, and Will Smith in I Am Legend. On television, Salli starred in the long-running sci-fi network series Eureka, where she got her first directorial taste after Ava DuVernay kind of tapped her and said, hey, you should be a director. Now she is a highly sought after director, and she is now inked her first overall deal. She's actually in the middle of it with HBO, where she's been directing and executive producing the Julian Fellows period drama, The Gilded Age, and directed the final 2 episodes of the first season of Adam McKay's critically acclaimed series, Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Salli returns to both series. I know, I love that show, and I'm not a sports person. Anyway, we're going to get to that. Sorry. Salli returns to both series as director and executive producer, and we cannot wait. Simon Frederick is a highly respected self-taught artist, photographer, filmmaker, and broadcaster. He was honored to be included in the UK's 100 most influential Black people list. He has created and produced and directed multiple award-winning television series, including Black is the New Black, They've Gotta Have Us, and The Outsiders. His portraits are in the National Portrait Gallery, and they made history. They were the largest edition of African Caribbean sitters and were acquired into the gallery's permanent collection. Additionally, Simon was the co-host and lead judge alongside Isabella Rossellini in Skypan's European competition Master of Photography. Simon is currently in rehearsals for his directorial debut as a play and for the play Unseen Unheard. And this production will mark his directorial debut, which will open at the end of April. Welcome to you both. Again, what an honor to talk to you guys.
Thank you for having us.
So
Absolutely.
my first question to you is, what was the first time, or when was the first time you saw yourselves in media?
Ooh, in media.
In any medium.
Simon, are you gonna go first?
Okay. I'll go first. I think the first time I saw myself on my work.
You saw yourself.
So.
And it could be young Simon or.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, first time I saw myself in any medium was a newspaper, a local newspaper article on me for running track. I had won an area competition for 400-meter hurdles as a youth. It was kind of special because my dad took it to work and pinned it up in his office so everyone could read it because those were his bragging rights and not mine. So that was the first time.
I would say my first time, now that I've had a second to think about that, was so at 14, I did my first play at the Kumba Workshop in Chicago, which, if you can tell by the name, is a Black theater. And I was doing a play called The Tiger Who Wore White Gloves that was adapted from a Gwendolyn Brooks poem. And I remember having, I think there was a little tiny blurb in the paper about it. So I think that was the first time and kind of got me excited about being in this industry.
So what medium as you were growing up had the most impact on you, or who did you see that looked like you, that you first saw representation in media that you connected to?
I think for me, my mother was in the music business and worked at a recording studio. So it was really more about Black music. And that was around me everywhere. My mother was just really loved music. So I think my first concerts were Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, but like when it was Earth, Wind and Fire and they were doing real magic shows, and Stevie Wonder and A Taste of Honey and Commodores. And so, and growing up in Chicago, it was a vibe for me. And I think that, again, it's part of the reason that I got into this business, that music. And in the play that I mentioned was also a musical. So I think music was really my way into Black art.
For me, it was magazines. You know, we were getting, you know, my mum was getting Ebony. It was very expensive because we have to pay the importation tax on it. But we were getting Ebony, Caribbean Household, a lot of, you know, Black music. My dad was into, you know, anything that had, or anything that was from Trojan Records. So anything that was out of Jamaica. Being Grenadian, you know, that also included some Calypso. But also, you know, we were listening to literally when growing up in the UK in like the 60s and 70s, a lot of our influences were African American. You know, we were listening to literally everything that you were listening to, we were listening to. That was our influence. And, you know, a lot of the UK influences, I wasn't looking that way. That wasn't my direction of travel. It was always, you know, anything that was Black, for me, was my influence.
So what would you say now is your connective tissue to being Black? I know for me, it's music, you know, especially if I'm at a concert or maybe a gathering and Before I Let Go comes on by Maze. And when the whole crowd gets together and starts doing the electric side, I always stop and go, I love being Black. You know, so what for you too is your connective tissue to your Blackness?
This may sound odd, but I think it may be when I'm in spaces, which I am most of the time, where I may be one of a few. And I feel it much more when I'm just the only fish there. Or I walk on a set and I see my assistant who's Black and maybe a few crew people. And we have that moment to acknowledge each other in this space. And sometimes it's like if I see a camera operator who's a Black camera operator, because we don't get a lot of those on the set here, I make sure I'm there to go, hey, what's up? You know, like we have all our little private moments. And I think that that's when I'm most proud and I feel it more.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Salli. I think I would add to that. It's when I'm abroad, you know, it's like I grew up thinking that, or being told that, you know, wherever I go as a Black man, I'm going to be treated as a stranger. Yeah. So wherever you go and you see somebody else is Black in spaces and places where there are not many of us, it's always this. You know, and the nod, yeah, that note of recognition. I see you, I'm here, you know, we're together, you know, and there's always the touch of the heart, you know. For me, that's the biggest thing, you know, wherever I am, to have that acknowledgement, and to give that acknowledgement to other brothers and sisters when we see each other.
And what about those moments have you ever had where you try to acknowledge someone, they don't give it back to you, and then you're like, what's up?
Yeah, you're like, what's wrong with this brother? And then you make your own your generalization. Well, he's lost.
Yes.
He's right.
You know, it comes down to there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of conversation at the moment about the word woke. Yeah,
right.
And how you know, it's like, as I was saying to my white colleagues the other day, how you guys have taken the word and completely given it a stupid meaning. So stop using it.
Yeah.
But when, you know, to go back to your comment about what happens when you see someone, you give them the nod, and they you know, they just look straight through you or look past you. Yeah, I just look at them and think, you know, you ain't woke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave you where you are.
Yeah, you've made a choice, and enjoy the other side.
But what I've noticed is sometimes Black folks are afraid to make that connection, and they want to be the only one, you know, and it's almost, I don't know if you've experienced that, but it's I see sometimes other people of color on the set afraid to group up with me, as if it's going to mean something different to, you know, the other people around us. And I'm not living in that. And I just think it's important for us all to find each other and to, you know, that strength together.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think that generationally, I see the shift, right? I am, you know, I'm of a generation where it's like you're working with people, and somebody else sees you as, you know, somebody else that looks like you doesn't want to speak to you because you're competition.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas now it's like I feel like I've been adopted by the Gen Zs. Yeah, I made a film about them for YouTube. They loved it. You know, what's really interesting is seeing how community-minded they are. Yeah, they bring each other in. They're working with each other, right? They're not looking outside. They're looking at who the person to their right is and who the person to their left is. Yeah, and you know, it's like I'm really learning a lot from them. But the thing that I'm learning from them is a community-mindedness that I never had in my generation, or I didn't see in my generation.
Both of your answers are making me think and want to ask you both, because you both had very successful careers in predominantly white spaces. Did you find when you were entering them that you had to code switch, even as you made transitions, you know, Salli from actor to director, you know, Simon, as you changed your professions, whether photographer, director, did you find that you had to code switch, and did you?
I think that it's not, I mean, for me, it's just a natural thing that I do. It's, you know, I was raised in both worlds. I have a, you know, white father, Black mother. We didn't have a lot of money, but I was able to go to private school. Like, that's where they spent their money. So I'm one way at school and one way at home. I'm one way with this family, one way with that family. So honestly, I think, and that has worked well for me in my career, because it's just something naturally I slip into and slip out of. But I'd have to say that now, the more I have grown in this business, in particular as a director, I'm very much myself all the time. I don't feel like I have to dip in and out so much. I am who I am, and the people around me and the people I work with respect what I do, and they respect who I am. And I love it. I love just being me.
Yeah, I think for me, early on running track, you know, I had a little bit of success with that. And that teaches you, you know, you're in a predominantly white world, but you learn that winning gives you a position and a platform. And once you've won, there is, I mean, it's not, you know, it's not the perfect platform, because winning does not allow you to speak about things which affect you as a Black person. But I've always felt that that was really important for me. It was really important for me to speak up and speak out, and to, you know, to be myself. And when I say be myself, it's like, you know, I remember, I mean, we have, Salli, I think we have the mutual thing of the fact that, you know, Ava DuVernay was the person that kind of like opened the doors for our careers. Yeah. And I remember, you know, certain things that Ava had said to me, which really cemented in my mind that being myself was really important, because there's somebody out there looking at you, looking at your success and wondering what's the roadmap for me? Yeah, how can I be myself? How can I be my authentic self? And one of the things very quickly that I kind of did, or what I do even to this day, is I don't play the game. I don't play the game in terms of, I don't walk into the room and, you know, if you look at me as a Black man, you're thinking that I'm a minority. You know, I don't see myself as a minority. I see myself as part of the majority. I just happen to be Black. Because I am Black, it means that my terms of reference will always come from my Blackness, because that's how I see the world. And for me, it's really important that we move away from conversations which are really about the, you know, the nonsense and nonsensical kind of ethos that there is only, you know, that there is a predominant culture, and that predominant culture is the only culture that can tell their stories in one way. You know, as human beings who are all different, that's just stupidity. So for me, it's really been about trying to ensure that as a Black man, I can tell my stories from my perspective. And from that perspective, I'm not saying that I'm telling stories from a Black perspective which only are interesting to Black people. What I'm saying is that they're human, that they come from, you know, the connective tissue that connects all of us as human beings.
How do you as Black creatives maintain a sense of artistic integrity in this industry, and how can you and others best support each other in doing so?
Well, again, I find myself a lot of the times the only one in the room. And I think that means you know, it's really required of me to speak up when I see something being done that I feel is wrong or offensive, or just not thought through enough, because it maybe isn't a Black writer who's writing it. Like going back to from doing Gilded Age, which people love so much. There are some sequences in there that if I had not been there to oversee them, they would have been, you know, it's not that other directors can't direct it, but there's some nuances that are in those scenes that maybe only as a Black woman I would notice, you know, that this has to be like this. No, this would, you know, no, let's bring, oh, you don't have a role for the housekeeper in there? Let me bring her in. Housekeepers in a Black housekeeper with a Black family is a little more familiar than they would be in a white family. She might feel like she, you know, she can have a little more conversation in there, and you wouldn't necessarily know that. So I just think that it's our responsibility to color it the way it would be. And also, you know, sometimes I see dialogue and you go, ding, 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 guys. I wouldn't say that. That makes me feel some kind of way. And it's going to make other people feel that kind of way. And to have that conversation, because they don't see it. And a lot of times I don't think that it's not necessarily racist of what people are writing. They just don't hear it I'm going to hear it. And once you bring it up, they are more than willing to go, oh, absolutely. Just a simple scene. I was on Winning Time. One of the characters was calling some other Black characters, what boy. And it was in a game. And I was like, yeah, he shouldn't call them boy. I know that's not what it's meant, but not necessary, and take it out. Okay, just no questions. And I think that even though those are very small things, we need to be in the room to be able to go, that's not happening here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when I made They've Got to Have Us, you know, I'll say this now, disclaimer, because there are a couple of people who think that They've Got to Have Us is the history of Black cinema. It is not. I did not make it as a history of Black cinema. I made it as the stories of Black artists in the art form of cinema and allowing them to tell their stories. And then we had intersecting stories in there. But what was really interesting about that was I originally made that for the BBC. And in the making of that, I would get notes back where literally it was like turbulence in my body. Like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I am literally, what this note is nonsense. Yeah. So I remember there was a note about it was that we had cut a sequence about Spike Lee, and it was school days. And basically, I was told to remove all the references of historic Black universities because we don't have them in England. So take that out because the audience won't understand it. So I asked the question, who's the audience? Yeah. And I didn't get an answer. So I said I wasn't going to take it out. I was going to leave it in. There was another sequence as well where I had interviewed an actor called Earl Cameron. When I interviewed Earl was 103 years of age. Yeah. His film, when he was 101, he was in Inception. He had a role in Inception. And this guy's memory was incredible. You know, I can't remember what happened, you know, half an hour ago, let alone, you know, what happened in 1937. Yeah. But his memory was incredible. And I realized at that point that this man has sat down and given me a 2-hour interview. And this would probably be the last time he ever gave an interview of this kind. So I had to be, I have to nurture that and look after it, because these are, you know, I have a saying that I call them our babies. Yeah. So with the babies, you have to look around the room and say, okay, who can I hand my baby over to? Who's going to look after my baby? And who's going to drop my baby? Yeah. So those are the people. I'm not going to give you my baby if you're going to drop my baby. What was really interesting was when Netflix picked up They've Got to Have Us through ARE, and ARE had the screening event. I think it was about 3,000 people turned up that night for that screening, and seeing that everything that we decided and fought for to remain within that series, that the people watching laughed in the right place, cried in the right place, you know, and understood, you know, that we had ensured that we had been the custodians of the culture and made sure that it was done correctly. Because, you know, there are people who make decisions about our work that I always say that they're, you know, like you said, Salli, you know, it's like, this is not, half the time it's not racism. Yeah.
They just don't get it. And just because you don't get it, I'd be like, you don't get it, but everyone else will.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trust me.
Yeah.
You have to, that's why you have me here, or part of the reason you have me here. You have to trust, you know, you have to trust that I know about my community. You can know yours. I know what they're going to like.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, it's like, I always say that there are a lot of people in in the way of our ideas, you know, who commission our ideas or who are executing our ideas or whatever, who culturally, you know, don't have the education and the understanding and the sensitivity to be the custodian of those ideas. So I always, you know, try and as politely as I possibly can, which sometimes doesn't come across as being polite, but I always try and ensure that those people are not standing in the way of something that they can't be the arbiter of what, you know, a few million people will find interesting, that one person. So just trying to get them out the way of their own egos sometimes is sometimes the job that I find myself having to do.
Yeah, this reminds me of what you're talking about. I always think about hearing, I think it was Lawrence Fishburne talk about when he was filming What's Love Got to Do with It. And there was a scene with him and Chi McBride. And I mean, granted, he was just an actor. He was like, two Black men wouldn't speak this way, especially at this moment. There was a scene in a diner, and he said he just felt empowered to take the script and literally rewrite the dialogue as they would speak. And so I guess that makes me question, I know you can make these kind of changes that you're talking about as directors, but were there any other times that you voiced your opinion when you were not so in the driver's seat, so to speak, or you had the power to make a change?
Absolutely. In my time as an actress, I've always been someone that I'm not saying that, or, I'm just not saying that. You're not going to make me betray who I am as a person. And then also having those moments where you're there just going, this doesn't fit in my mouth. I wouldn't say this. This is not how this person would say this. I've been lucky, I think, that I've really been around people who valued my opinion and didn't push back so much. I think more in the directing world is when I have to really convince people that, that's just the wrong direction. But for me, I've always spoken up.
For me, it's because most of my work has been work that I've created myself. So it's always been the network or the studio or the broadcaster who have some kind of nervousness about what the audience is going to think and feel. And it's usually just, two people, who live in some outback in England somewhere or wherever, in the Midwest. No offense to anyone who lives out in the Midwest. But that's what they're worried about. And for me, it's really important to not let their fears become my fears. Yeah. And I remember seeing a quote from David Lynch saying that, that anyone on set can have a great idea to put in your film. Could even be a little suggestion that the lady making the tea, says. Yeah. But never let anyone with a bad idea, never put a bad idea in your film. Yeah. So for me, I've always kept that. And, it's like I said earlier, people making notes or making suggestions who feel that it is their position and power to do so. I will always push back on that. And if it don't feel right, it ain't going in.
Get out of here with that stuff. That's what's pretty much. Exactly. You both made references to Ava DuVernay as someone who has, helped your career. So what qualities or other successes do you look for in Black creatives that inspire you to want to support them? And aside from Ava, is there anyone else who's made a difference in your career and why?
Ava really is the biggest. I don't know if I would have been directing at all or known I was supposed to be a director without Ava literally saying to me, I think you're a director and you don't know it, which really sent me on this journey. Literally from the day that she said that. But I did find once I had made the decision, I had so many people who were willing to help me and teach me. Directors like Oz Scott and Eric Lonneville, and these are all wonderful Black TV directors who were really who were there to guide me while I was directing. I'm like, where I could call and say, hey, I have this sequence. I haven't done this before. Oh, I'll get on a plane and come help you. So I found that people, I think there was a time when there weren't many of us. So it was more of a competition thing. And now there is a bigger community of directors and creatives who really want to pull you up and help you. And I have found that very exciting. And it's what I try to do now too. As I see I always, before COVID, I always had someone on the set shadowing mostly Black women, shadowing me on the set. When I had an opportunity on The Gilded Age to bring some other directors, another Black director in, I did. The more I can usher people along and let them and teach them what it means to grow in this industry as a director, I have to do it. And then just for myself, I have to be, I work really hard to be the best at what I do, because I know that everyone who's coming after me is going to be judged judged by how well I do. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way. Yeah. But I know that most of the time the people I'm working with, it may be the only time they've had someone Black direct them. Maybe definitely a Black woman. A lot of these crew and producers, they haven't worked with it at all. So if I don't do great, then that next Black woman who comes in, they're going to go, those Black women directors aren't very good because I didn't do a great job. So I don't know. I think I kind of went off on a different tangent, but it connects to me.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you literally just said. It's like the only chip on my shoulder when I'm working is that I have to be the best that I can be, and I have to make the best work that I can make, because I know that I can't. Can I swear? Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I can't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the option to fuck it up, because if I do, maybe that puts the next person 10 years back. Yeah. The next person that looks like me 10 years back. And when I mean looks like me, could be male or female. Or non-defining. Yeah. Just happens to look like me. So it's really important that, for me, that I do right, that I have a multicultural set. Yeah. Mixed genders, mixed ethnicities. I remember I gave a chance to a brand new editor on They've Gotta Have Us, and she cut this amazing sequence, which was the opening sequence of Malcolm X, where Ernest Dickerson is talking about the one shot that was created with Shorty walking, and the train going by and everything. And literally, she cut that. It looked like he was literally looking at it and telling her where to cut it. And it wasn't. It was just, she just had his transcript. And, she's young and she's Iranian, and, it's like most people weren't giving her a chance to come in and to do a job, because she just didn't fit the bill. Yeah. Now she's forever working, which is brilliant. But I just wanted to go back to your question, who were the people? when I made They've Gotta Have Us, I was told by the BBC, someone in BBC Worldwide, I won't mention his name, although I could, that that it was impossible to distribute They've Gotta Have Us because it had too many British and American stars to make it viable for worldwide distribution. And I was like, sorry, this guy was speaking, and I was confused by what he said. So I said to him, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? So he repeated it. And I was like, you know what? Actually, your sentence only makes sense if you add the word black to that. Yeah. So I remember having this conversation with David Oyelowo. And at the time I was, it was like 2019, beginning of, I was having treatment for cancer, and I was literally sat in bed, and my wife gave me the phone one day, and it was David on the phone with Ava, and Ava was like, you know, we're gonna do something with this film, yeah, and basically she put it on, walked it into Netflix. And then I got better. Surgeons cured me. And I came over, and literally Ava introduced me to, the US market. But what was really beautiful about it was, and sorry, I've gone off on a completely long tangent here, but also Spike had said to me, go and visit Charles Burnett. And I remember meeting Charles Burnett, the writer and director of Killer of Sheep. And he said one thing to me. He said to me, I asked him why he became a filmmaker. And he said to me that he became a filmmaker because film had been used as a form of propaganda against Black people since the inception of film. And his job was to unpick all of that. When I heard that, I knew exactly why I do what I do.
Now, do you find that I'm really sensitive to work that I feel is building into stereotypes that are by us? It hurts me when I see work by very big names in our industry, I will not say who, that I know is cheap and dangerous. It just pisses me off because I know that there are people that have more power who could do better work and choose not to, and choose to make it just about the money. And I don't get it. I don't understand how,
Excellent question.
No, I hear you completely, because when you've sat down with a Charles Burnett, or you've sat down with Harry Belafonte, and they start telling you about what they went through and why they made the decisions that they did, and that without them we wouldn't be where we are today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It hurts me when like you said, Salli, it really does hurt me. There are people who have called me arrogant and all of these things because, if something is, there was a time where I used to get really upset whenever we used the term Black excellence. Yeah. And I got upset with it because basically there were times when the work was shit, it wasn't excellent. Just because it was there, people were saying, hey, it's Black excellence. And I was like, this isn't excellent. Don't call something excellent. Just because it was made doesn't make it good. Yeah, and
you get caught in a place like what I do is I don't want to tear our stuff apart. So I will, if I think a TV show or a film is shit, I just say nothing.
That's my route now.
I say nothing. I'm not going to, I'm like, I don't want to tear another brother down, but I'm not going to pretend, because you'll have all these people pretending that this is a great piece of work. And I'm like, it is not. So I'm just going to stay out of it. because I don't, it's such a hard spot, because you know what, if all of a sudden I decide I see your film and I'm like tweeting about it and decide I didn't like this and this and this, that may hurt you as a, you know, so I don't know. It's very hard. I wish people felt more responsibility to the culture to be great and not to accept just that you got it done. So now it's supposed to be great.
No, I think that there's a fashion designer, black fashion designer here who's a great friend of mine and a really great mentor, Oswald Boateng. And I remember Oswald saying to me one time, look, you know, the thing about it is this: we as Black people should be able to have our Black people committee where we speak to each other and it doesn't go outside. Yeah, so we don't air our dirty laundry outside, but we can speak to each other, okay, and do so in a way where it's like, this is all about love. Yeah, we're just sharing love with each other. Yeah, this is not hating on each other. This is about just ensuring that we have quality control. Yeah, and that we care about the images and messages that we're putting out there about ourselves.
Okay, I'm going to take a pause right now because we have quite a few questions in the Q&A chat. So let's get to, I'll do the first one, and this is directly for Salli from Devon Edwards. What is your advice to filmmakers entering the space of faith-based films and how to garner the attention of mainstream?
I don't know really about the direction of faith-based. You know, I think that what I always find in anything that you really are trying to get a deeper message through, try to entertain first, because that's the only way that people want to hear that message. Mm-hmm. There has to be a way without you just telling me, believe something. I feel like you have to trick your audience to give them a different meaning at all times.
Okay.
And that's how people receive it. So that may not be answering your question. I don't know if I'm in that piece, but I think that as you're writing, I don't want to go to any movie where I know the whole time I'm being hit over the head with something to learn something. I think it has to happen organically and entertain me while I'm learning. And that's for any genre you're doing. I don't think that answered the question, but that's what I'm going to have to say about that one.
I liked it because it is like entertain first, you know.
Entertain, yeah.
Aisha Muhammad asks, what advice would you, this is to both, what advice would you give to new Black creatives trying to make a name for themselves in this business on how to speak up for yourself without being typecast the angry Black person?
Well, you're always going to be typecast as the angry Black person. So, you know, you just got to realize that that's always going to be the case. I think that the thing is that is to actually be able to change people's minds and change people's perceptions. Even if they're not changing their perceptions of you, is to get them to change their perception of the idea. Yeah, because it may well be that you are sticking up for an idea, or you're sticking up for a way of doing something within your film or within the project that you're working on, and people are coming at you as you're going to be angry. Yeah, like I said, you know, that may never change. Yeah,
but you cannot lean into it. I mean, listen, as you move into this business, it is political. It is you are always, you know, ducking in this way, and how do I deal with this person? So it takes people skills.
Yeah.
So you can, and again, people say all the time, well, we hear you're really tough. And I'm like, me? I'm like, I think I'm really fun and nice.
That's because you have an opinion.
That's because I have an opinion. But this, I don't want people to think that you go and you write your thing and you just say whatever you want to, you're going to be who you're going to be. There's some massaging to that if you want to grow and get what you want. This is politics up in here. So at the end of the day, don't shoot yourself in the foot trying to be 500% who you are. How do you get what you want at the end of the day? And that may mean, you know what I'm saying, Simon. You got to.
No, I'm there. I'm absolutely there with you.
A little bit of the dance to do, if I'm being honest, to get what you want at the end of the day. And for those new creatives out there, writing your own content is going to be your ticket. If you write it and you believe in it, only you know your perspective, then you can really fight for it.
Yeah, the only thing is though, as well, to add to what Sally's just said, absolutely right. It is about people's skills. It's like sometimes you have to kill people with charm and with love. Sometimes you will have to stand on your sword. But the thing that you're going to have to measure is which hill are you going to die on today? Yeah, and that means that you can't argue for everything. Yeah, you have to work out which is the thing that you are really, that's the thing, that's the hill you're going to die on today. Yeah, and it doesn't mean the first thing that comes up in that day is the thing that you're going to argue on, because it's like you can't use up all your credits all at the same time.
And guess what? Sometimes people's opinion, as much as brilliant as we think we are, is right. You have to figure out when to be collaborative and when someone has a better idea. And it's not all about race. It's not all about them not understanding. They just don't, that just is not, I just don't understand that. So if I don't understand it, someone else isn't going to understand it. How do we figure it out? How do we make it understandable for everyone? So you have to know what you're really fighting for, and know that as you grow in this business and your projects get bigger, you cannot do it alone. It really becomes even more collaborative because the machine is bigger and bigger, and you have to get those people around you that you can trust, because you cannot do it by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's like...
No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm directing a play at the moment, and directing a play is very different from directing TV or film. It's like all the department heads, they have a say on what goes in the script, and it's very collaborative. So it's like, for me, it's been a really interesting muscle to learn. That we are not in control of every aspect of this particular production.
I was just going to say this is making me think, when you watch a film or a television show and you sit through the credits and all those people, and it's like they all have probably had some sort of say or input or something that they've, it's a huge amount of people you have to collaborate with. So that's a great question. I would be remiss without asking you both this question, because, here we are, AAFCA partnering with BAFTA. What are the differences and opportunities between the UK and US that you find as Black creatives? Simon already gave a deep breath.
I
mean, only Simon, I'm not going to know, what it's like there. I think it's opening up for us in the States, and although if you still look at the numbers, it's small. But I do think that there's a time, because we really are behind the camera more and creating our own content. And you do have producers like Ava and Lena Waithe and, and many more, obviously, that are really leading the charge. But it's still hard out here, because we still have to go to somebody to sell it.
I was having a meeting with Will Packer last November with Will and Alex. And we were talking, you know, it's like three Black guys in a room talking about the industry. And, you know, there came a huge realization for me, you know, because I think since 2017, all my work has come from the United States, even though I'm based here, because I really feel like the market here in England is for the stories that I want to tell, the market's contracting. Yeah, for the stories I want to tell, the market is increasing for me in the United States. But going back to the Will Packer story, what was really interesting was that 99.9% of us who are pitching ideas to white people. That's the reality of our industry. That's the reality of our situation. You know, so I always say that the people that commission my work are brave hearts. They're people that understand the power of the story and understand that story can live. You know, it's not just redacted by race. That it has a bigger story to it. But yeah, it was a sobering moment to know that probably the only person who can commission his own work is Tyler Perry.
Yeah. And then, you know, we're all privy to the news and the way Hollywood is shifting right now and downsizing. It's getting seemingly harder and harder. But when the great work is there, it's there, and we'll get through. We have just 3 minutes left, and I want to open up to our panelists if they have any final thoughts or use this as an opportunity to tell us where we can continue to and how best to support your work and the work of Black creatives like yourselves.
Well, I would think about, I remember when She's Gotta Have It first came out. I was in New York, and I remember Spike's call to arms that everyone had to get out there that first day and see the film. And I think it was like one theater somewhere in New York. I'm not even from New York. I found a way to get there. And I think that we still need to keep that in our minds, that when there are good films, big and small, we need to be there in that theater and show them where we want to put our money. And it's still important, and probably more important for some of these smaller films, because if you want more of them made, then you got to go see them. So I'm going to go back to Spike's words, because I still think they're important.
No, 100%. And also, I'm taking that as an example. Spike and Lena Waithe and Ava, who seems to be, we keep going back to Ava. But I think what's really important is the youngsters coming through, if I can give them some advice, which is look at the people to your left and look at the people to your right. It's like, I heard this quote once from Lena Waithe, where she was at a Q&A, and it was like a big Q&A with a big star, and everyone was like, you're going to go and speak to this person. And her thing was, now I'm going to ask the person next to me what they do and find out that person is a writer, and the person over there is a camera op, and the person over there, is a dressmaker and whatever. And, that advice still rings true today, because, you can make a film on an iPhone, right? And basically you just need to have the people to your left and the people to your right to all come together, and find the person who writes and make your film. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it costs to make it, make your film. yeah, and get it out there. You know, there's so many people now putting stuff out on YouTube or whatever, finding ways and means to get their work out there, and it's working. You know, so yeah, because we always get asked the questions: how do I start? You know, where do I go to? Start. Do it. You don't need anyone else to help you do it. Do it.
Wow.
And in that, do the work.
Mm.
I say that to people all the time. Do the hard work. It's you know, as easy as it seems. Like people go, oh, well, you were in the business, so it was easy for you to get started as a director. Yeah, I had some people, some relationships I had made, but it's because I did the work. I didn't just say, oh, I'm a direct and not do, study, get the books I needed to, and start shadowing directors and spend every night when I did get those episodes to make sure I did a great job. It's not easy what we do. And it's like people, actors, or people who want to be actors and say, oh, I can lie, so I could be an actor. Go to an acting class. Just do the work so that when you get there, you will be great. And the people who come behind you will have an opportunity, and you didn't ruin them for it. You didn't ruin it.
Very true. Very true.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Salli Richardson-Whitfield. Thank you, Simon Frederick. Thank you, AAFCA. Thank you, BAFTA. Please follow their work. Please follow them. Thank you so much, and continue to support Black creatives. Thank you, everyone.